Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be tackling AI.
Oh, yeah. But,
The good and the bad.
well, not the good so much.
More like the bad and the ugly.
Yeah, that's more accurate.
So we're diving deep into this video by Johnny Harris.
You might know him.
Yeah, he does a ton of stuff on YouTube.
And it's called, What Happens When AI Goes Wrong?
Catchy title.
It is, and he lays out 6 scenarios.
Like possible ways things could go south with AI.
Yeah, and
we're lucky to have some extra insight from
AI expert Carmi Artigas.
Yeah. She's actually featured in the video.
She is, and she's done some incredible work on
AI regulations, especially in Europe.
Yeah, shaping how AI is used safely and responsibly.
That's right. She's been a key player in creating practical safeguards.
Okay, so the first scenario Harris talks about is predictive policing.
Oh, interesting.
So the basic idea is that AI could analyze data
and predict where crimes are likely to happen.
Yeah, like hotspots, and then law enforcement could be more proactive.
Seems like a good thing on the surface, right? Yeah, at first glance, it sounds like it could make communities safer.
But there are some big ethical concerns.
That the video digs into.
Yeah, like what happens if the AI makes a mistake?
And it leads to a wrongful arrest.
Exactly, and the video actually brings up a case in Detroit,
where a man was arrested because of a facial recognition error.
Imagine that, you're just going about your day.
And suddenly you're being arrested.
Because an algorithm got you mixed up with someone else.
Pretty scary stuff.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg, you know.
It raises the whole issue of mass surveillance.
Right, if we rely too heavily on these AI predictions.
Could we end up in a world where everyone's constantly monitored?
Yeah, every move you make is being tracked and analyzed.
Our privacy and basic freedoms could be eroded.
It's a slippery slope, and it's not just a hypothetical concern.
I mean, different parts of the world are already approaching AI regulation in different ways.
Like in Europe, the EU has taken a pretty strong stance against predictive policing.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're concerned about the potential for human rights violations.
It makes sense.
And they've even gone so far as to say they might ban using AI for predictive policing altogether.
Wow, so it's clear that this isn't just a theoretical debate.
Not at all. It's having real-world implications right now.
And it raises some tough questions for us.
Yeah, like how do we balance the potential benefits of AI in law enforcement
with the need to protect individual rights and freedoms?
It's a balancing act.
It is. All right, so moving on.
Let's talk about scenario number 2, AI and democracy.
Okay, this is a big one, especially with all the talk about election interference lately.
And the spread of misinformation online.
The video specifically focuses on the rise of deepfakes,
which are
AI-generated videos or audio recording that can make someone
appear to be saying or doing things they never actually did.
Yeah, I've seen some of those deepfakes online.
It's crazy, right?
It's mind-blowing how realistic they've become.
It's hard to tell what's real and what's fake anymore.
Even for someone like me who's pretty tech-savvy.
Exactly. And what's even more concerning is that these deepfakes aren't just for entertainment.
They can be used in some pretty damaging ways.
Yeah, imagine a deepfake video of a political candidate
saying something inflammatory right before an election
that could totally sway public opinion
and undermine the entire democratic process.
It's like a whole new level of disinformation warfare.
It's scary to think about how easily it could be used to manipulate people.
But you know, the video actually points out something interesting.
What's that?
It's not just about the potential for direct manipulation.
There's something else going on here.
Yeah, it's about the erosion of trust.
Trust in information and institutions.
Exactly, if we can't trust what we see or hear anymore.
How can we have informed debates and make sound decisions?
It undermines the very foundation of democracy.
So it's not just a technological problem.
It's a societal problem with far-reaching consequences.
What are some potential solutions to combat this?
Well, some folks are working on developing tech tools to detect deepfakes.
Like a sort of AI lie detector?
Kind of. But then there's also a big push for media literacy education.
Teaching people how to identify manipulated content.
Giving them the tools to be more critical consumers of information.
That makes sense.
And, of course, there's the legal side of things.
Like laws and regulations to address the spread of deepfakes.
It seems like we need a multifaceted approach
to effectively combat this threat.
Yeah, combining tech, education, and legal frameworks.
To protect the integrity of our information ecosystem.
And one more thing that's really important.
What's that?
International collaboration.
Right, because deepfakes don't respect borders.
We need global solutions to address this global threat.
Makes sense. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about social scoring.
This one's a bit trippy.
Yeah, I've heard the term before.
It's like, imagine your credit score.
Oh, okay, I get that.
But instead of just your finances,
Mhm.
it's everything. Your online activity, your social interactions.
Like how much you post on social media.
Yeah, could be. Even things like your work performance.
And your shopping habits.
Even what you look like.
Hmm.
All that data gets fed into this system.
And you're assigned a score.
And that score can have real-world consequences.
Wait, so it's like a rating system for how good of a citizen you are?
Basically, yeah. It sounds like something out of a dystopian novel, right?
It does.
But guess what?
This is already happening somewhere.
China already has a social credit system in place.
Wow.
It's designed to encourage good behavior.
And punish bad behavior.
But it's raised a lot of concerns about privacy and the potential for abuse.
It's wild to think about.
So how does this tie back to AI going wrong?
That's a good question.
One of the biggest worries is bias.
Like the algorithms being biased?
Yeah, because remember, these AI systems are trained on data.
And if that data reflects existing societal biases,
Then the algorithms themselves can perpetuate those biases,
that could lead to some pretty unfair outcomes.
especially for marginalized groups who are already at a disadvantage.
Yeah, and another issue is the lack of transparency.
Right, these systems are often like black boxes.
Meaning?
We don't always know how they're making their decisions.
So even if a system seems well-intentioned on the surface,
There's a risk it could be used in harmful ways.
and without transparency, it's hard to address those problems.
Exactly. We need to be able to understand how these decisions are being made.
So we can ensure that they're fair and just.
That's right. It all comes back to transparency and accountability.
Okay, so we've talked about predictive policing and social scoring.
Pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, what's next?
Well, this one might be the most alarming of all.
Oh, I'm scared.
Scenario 4. AI and nuclear weapons.
Okay, I think we've officially entered sci-fi thriller territory.
Aha, I know, right.
AI going rogue, launching nukes, the whole 9 yards.
But the real-world concerns are a bit more nuanced.
So it's not about AI becoming sentient and evil,
Not exactly. It's more about the potential for unintended consequences.
or miscalculation.
Right. The video raises the possibility of an AI system misinterpreting data
Like mistaking a satellite launch for a missile attack.
and triggering a retaliatory strike.
That's terrifying.
Or imagine an AI system that's given too much autonomy over nuclear weapons.
And then there's a software glitch or a cyber attack.
It could lead to a catastrophe.
The consequences are just unthinkable.
But, there is some good news.
Oh, good. I was getting worried.
There's growing awareness of these risks.
And people are starting to take action.
Governments and international organizations are starting to think about
How to regulate AI in the military domain.
to prevent this kind of nightmare scenario from becoming a reality.
That's reassuring.
It seems like we need a global conversation
And maybe even some international treaties.
to ensure that human control over nuclear weapons is never relinquished to machines.
Absolutely. We can't let AI make those kinds of life or death decisions.
And this brings us back to a point that Carmar Negas emphasizes throughout the video,
Which is?
the importance of human oversight and ethical considerations.
In AI development and deployment. So it's not just about building the most advanced AI systems possible.
It's about making sure that those systems are aligned with human values.
And serve the best interests of humanity.
We need to be thoughtful and intentional about how we develop and use this technology.
That's a huge responsibility.
And it's one that we all share.
Okay, I'm going to stop us there for a moment.
Okay.
Because we've covered a lot of ground.
We have 4 scenarios down, 2 to go.
And it's clear that the potential downsides of AI are pretty serious.
But before we move on, I want to talk about something else.
Okay.
We've been talking a lot about the dangers,
Yeah, all the ways things could go wrong.
and it can sound pretty doom and gloom.
It does.
But what about the potential for AI to be a force for good?
That's a good point. We shouldn't forget that.
AI also has the potential to help us solve some of humanity's biggest challenges.
Like what?
Well, think about healthcare.
Okay.
AI is already being used to diagnose diseases earlier
That's amazing.
and to develop personalized treatments
Tailored to each individual patient.
and to improve patient care overall.
That's incredible.
And then there's climate change.
Okay.
AI can be used to model climate patterns
To help us understand how the climate is changing,
and to optimize energy consumption
to reduce waste and emissions.
and to develop new renewable energy sources.
Wow. So AI could actually help us fight climate change?
It could. And don't forget about agriculture.
Okay.
AI can be used to increase crop yields,
To produce more food.
to reduce waste,
and to make farming more sustainable. So there's a lot of potential for AI to make a positive impact.
Yeah, it's not all doom and gloom,
We need to be mindful of the risks,
but also recognize the incredible opportunities.
to harness the power of AI for good.
And that's why these conversations are so important.
We need to talk about both the potential benefits and the potential risks, so we can work to maximize the good and minimize the bad,
Exactly. It's about finding that balance.
and making sure that AI is used ethically and responsibly.
It's a challenge, but it's one that we need to face head on.
Okay, well, with that in mind,
Let's dive back into Johnny Harris's scenarios.
and see what other potential pitfalls we need to be aware of.
Sounds good to me. Okay, so the next scenario on Johnny's list is,
AI in critical sectors.
right, critical sectors.
Those are
The systems that keep our society running,
yeah, the essential stuff.
things like water treatment, power grids, traffic control,
Okay, so AI could help manage all that.
potentially, yeah.
I mean, it could be pretty amazing.
Think about it. AI could optimize energy distribution,
Reduce waste, make things more efficient.
automatically adjust traffic flow to prevent congestion.
Yeah, that would be great.
AI could even help us address climate change and resource scarcity.
Okay, so there are definitely potential benefits here.
Absolutely. But
Yeah, always a but.
right, there are also some significant risks.
What are we talking about here?
Well, one of the big concerns is bias.
Bias in the AI systems.
Yeah, like imagine an AI system that's managing a power grid, and there's a heat wave.
Uh-huh.
Now, if that system is trained on data that reflects existing inequalities,
Weem.
like socioeconomic inequalities,
Okay.
it might prioritize power distribution to wealthier neighborhoods.
Seriously?
Yeah, leaving lower-income communities vulnerable to blackouts.
That's messed up.
It's like automating discrimination.
Yeah, that's a really disturbing example.
And the problem is, it can be hard to detect and correct these biases
It is.
because these AI systems are often so complex.
And opaque.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Black box problem.
Right, where it's difficult to understand how the AI arrived at a particular decision.
Even the developers might not fully understand.
It's true, so if something goes wrong.
It could be really hard to figure out why or how to fix it.
Exactly, and that's why transparency is so crucial.
When we're talking about AI managing these critical systems
We need to be able to understand how they're making decisions.
and be able to intervene if necessary,
We can't just hand over control and hope for the best,
it's too risky.
especially when you consider the potential for cascading failures.
What's that?
Well, these critical systems are often interconnected.
So if one system fails,
They could trigger a domino effect.
leading to widespread disruptions,
Exactly. Imagine a traffic management system malfunctioning,
causing gridlock throughout an entire city,
or an AI-controlled power grid experiencing a software glitch.
leading to blackouts.
These aren't just hypothetical scenarios.
There have already been some real-world examples.
Yeah, like that stock market flash crash a few years back.
That was caused by a trading algorithm malfunctioning.
It was, and while it was short-lived,
It shows how AI systems can create chaos.
if they're not carefully designed and managed,
It's a delicate balance.
we want to leverage the potential benefits of AI
But we also need to be incredibly cautious.
to prevent catastrophic failures.
So how do we do that?
Well, it comes back to responsible AI development,
Which brings us to Johnny's final point in the video.
right? The need for a fundamental shift in how we approach AI as a society,
Not just focusing on specific scenarios,
but taking a broader perspective.
but thinking about the big picture.
Yeah, the video really emphasizes that we're at a crossroads,
AI is rapidly advancing.
and we need to make conscious choices about how we want to shape its development.
There's a lot of hype around AI.
Oh, yeah,
Promises of solving all our problems, ushering in a utopian future.
but there's also a lot of fear and anxiety.
About the potential downsides.
AI becoming uncontrollable, even dangerous.
It's a lot to grapple with.
It is, but I think the key takeaway from the video
Is that we need to have open and honest conversations.
about the potential risks and benefits of AI,
We can't just ignore the potential pitfalls.
or blindly embrace the technology without considering the implications.
I need to be thoughtful and critical.
And I really like how Carmi Artigas puts it.
What does she say?
She says, we need to develop and deploy AI responsibly.
With appropriate safeguards and ethical frameworks in place,
It's not just about the technology itself
it's about the values we embed in it.
and the choices we make about how to use it.
Okay, so what does this all mean for our listener?
They've heard a lot about the potential pitfalls of AI.
What are some key takeaways they should keep in mind?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember
Is
AI is not some abstract force that's beyond our control.
It's not magic.
It's a tool created by humans,
And we have a responsibility to use it for good.
not for harm.
So what can our listener do?
They can become informed, ask critical questions.
Demand transparency from the companies and institutions developing AI.
We need to hold these powerful actors accountable,
And make sure that AI benefits society as a whole.
not just a select few.
AI for good.
I like that.
It's a reminder that we have the power to shape the future of AI.
But it's also a call to action.
We can't just sit back and wait for someone else to fix the problems.
We all have a role to play.
In ensuring that AI is used ethically and responsibly.
And that starts with education and awareness.
The more people understand about AI,
The better equipped we'll be to make informed decisions.
so it's not just about technical knowledge,
It's about critical thinking, ethical reasoning.
being able to engage in thoughtful discussions about these complex issues
We need to move beyond the simplistic narratives
of AI as savior or AI as destroyer.
and recognize the nuance.
New complexity.
AI is not a black and white issue
It's a spectrum,
with a lot of gray areas.
and we need to be prepared to navigate those gray areas.
With wisdom and foresight,
I think the 6 scenarios Johnny Harris lays out,
provide a great starting point for these conversations.
they cover a wide range of potential pitfalls.
Erosion of privacy, automation of discrimination.
Even the existential threat of AI-controlled nuclear weapons.
And while those scenarios might seem like science fiction,
They highlight real-world concerns that we need to address
we're already seeing some of these scenarios playing out.
on a smaller scale.
But the stakes are only going to get higher.
As AI becomes more powerful and pervasive
So we need to be proactive.
and react
We need to anticipate the potential consequences
and put safeguards in place.
to ensure that AI is used responsibly and ethically.
So what can our listener do to become more informed?
There are tons of resources available.
Online, in libraries,
You can follow experts like Carmi Artigas.
read articles and books about AI ethics.
Even take online courses.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Challenge assumptions, voice your concerns,
We all have a stake in the future of AI.
and we all have a responsibility to make sure it's used for good.
Okay, I think that's a good place to wrap up this part of our conversation.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
But there's still more to discuss
We've got 2 more scenarios to go.
and some final thoughts to share, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back. We've been talking about the potential downsides of AI.
Some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, it can be a little overwhelming, all the ways things could go wrong.
But it's important to remember that the future isn't predetermined.
We're not just passive observers. We have agency. We have the power to shape the trajectory of AI.
To steer it towards a future that benefits humanity.
That's right.
And that starts with education, awareness, engagement, like you mentioned earlier.
The more we understand about this technology,
The better equipped we'll be to make informed decisions.
about its development and deployment,
Right, and it's not just about the technical aspects.
that's about the societal implications.
The ethical considerations, the big picture stuff.
Exactly. We need to ask those tough questions.
Who benefits from AI?
Who bears the risks?
How do we ensure that it's used responsibly? So I guess the takeaway here is that we all need to become more...
AI literate, you could say.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just for the tech experts.
Or policymakers.
It's something that affects all of us.
We all need to understand the basics of AI.
How it works, its potential, its limitations.
But it goes beyond that, too,
It needs to encompass a deeper understanding.
of the ethical, social, and political dimensions.
Being able to critically evaluate the claims made about AI.
Spot potential biases. Identify potential harms.
Advocate for policies that promote responsible development.
Yeah, become informed citizens.
So we've talked about a lot of potential pitfalls.
The dark side of AI, so to speak.
But I want to go back to the video for a moment.
Sure.
One thing that struck me was that Johnny Harris didn't just present problems.
He also talked about the possibilities.
The potential for AI to be a force for good,
Right, he touched on some exciting areas,
like healthcare, climate change,
even art and expression.
if we can navigate the risks.
Ensure ethical development and deployment.
The potential upside is incredible.
It could truly transform our world for the better.
So it's not about rejecting AI outright.
It's about finding ways to harness its power
To solve problems, to create positive change,
while mitigating the potential harms,
finding that sweet spot,
where AI is used to enhance human well-being
not to diminish it.
without compromising our values or autonomy.
It's a tricky balance.
It is, but it's a balance we need to find.
You know, thinking back to that wrongful arrest case in Detroit,
The one caused by the facial recognition error?
Yeah, it really highlights the importance of
Human oversight and accountability.
we can't just blindly trust these systems.
Do need checks and balances
Mechanisms to challenge their decision.
to ensure fairness and justice.
So it's a shared responsibility.
Tech companies, policymakers, citizens
We all have a role to play.
in shaping the future of AI.
So I want to leave our listeners with a final question.
A question to ponder.
Something we haven't explicitly addressed today.
But that stems directly from the concerns we've been discussing.
If AI is increasingly used to manage critical infrastructure,
Things like power grids, transportation systems, financial markets.
what are the implications for jobs and the workforce?
How do we prepare for a future where some jobs may become obsolete?
Where automation takes over tasks that humans currently perform.
It's a huge question, and there are no easy answers.
But it's something we need to start thinking about now.
As a society, we need to be proactive,
We need to invest in education, retraining,
explore new economic models, safety nets,
to ensure that everyone benefits from the AI revolution,
that the transition is just and equitable.
that no one is left behind,
It's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity
to reimagine the future of work,
to create a society that is more humane, more fulfilling.
where technology serves human flourishing.
It's a vision worth striving for.
Well, on that note,
We've come to the end of our deep dive.
into the potential pitfalls of AI,
We've covered a lot of ground today,
from biased algorithms to autonomous weapons.
but we've also explored the incredible possibilities.
The power of AI to solve problems, to create a better world.
If we approach it with wisdom, foresight, and a commitment to ethical principles,
So keep learning, keep asking questions.
keep those critical thinking skills sharp.
The future of AI is in our hands.
Let's make sure we shape it wisely.
And that's a wrap for this episode of The Deep Dive.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.